Hi there, we're looking at the poems of Donne today, The Flea, 1772 to 1631, a 17th century poet, predominantly. A metaphysic as well, which means he would have looked at the extended metaphor or the conceit in order to make a point, as it were. So we're going to look at the flea today. Okay, so notice the mark but this flea and mark in this. Mark starts on a heavy accented syllable at the start there. So, is that trochaic or iambic? Well, it's trochaic because he wants to give it impact. He wants to make this point, mark. And in 17th century language, the mark is really notice this flea. No, mark but this flea and mark in this. All right, so hear what I'm going to say, look at this flea and notice what I'm going to say here. Okay, so he repeats it, mark but this flea and mark in this. How many beats are that? Mark but this flea and mark in this. 4 beats. Notice this but this flea. But this is said very quickly, putting sort of 1 beat to those 2 syllables. What do we call that? A spondee. Yeah, so we've got trochaic tetrameter, because we've got 4 beats, and it starts on a trochee. Alright, and then the second line, how little that which thou deniest me is. How little that which thou deniest me is. 4 beats, so it's a tetrameter again, but notice we don't start on a trochee, an accented syllable like mark, it's how little, how little. So the emphasis is on the second syllable, which means it's iambic. So the first line is trochaic tetrameter, the second line is iambic tetrameter. Okay? But what are we saying here? Mark but this flea and mark. So notice this flea. Okay, so it's interesting. I said, like, notice this tiny thing like a flea. How little that which thou deniest me is. Thou being you. Right? So 17th century language, you. How little that which you deniest me is. So there's somehow something's being denied him, and he's saying, look at this flea, and he's relating it to something which is being denied him by this person he's talking to. It sucked me first and now sucks thee. So the flea sucked the blood of me first and now it sucks you. And in this flea our 2 bloods are mingled. And that this cannot be said to be a sin or shameful or loss of maidenhead. Loss of virginity, in other words. So that's interesting. Our 2 bloods are together as if we've had sex, and this is not a sin, and it's not shameful, and it's not a loss of virginity. It's just the fact that the flea has sucked on all of us, on both of us, and our bloods are mingled in its stomach. Okay? And then he rounds it up with these 3 lines at the end there, which all rhyme together, woo, to, and do. Yet this enjoys before it woo. So it enjoys this blood mingling together, it gets sustenance from this blood, and before it's actually made a woo. Well, woo meaning to flirt with someone, okay? So before it's done any of that marriage business or persuading business, it's enjoying the benefits of the blood mingling together. And pampered swells with 1 blood made of 2. So it gets big, as we know. Fleas, sort of gorge themselves on blood, and like a mosquito, and it's become big on our blood, made of us both. And this, alas, is more than we would do. In other words, you and I are not doing this. He's happy that he's fed on our blood, this flea, but alas, it's not what we're doing, so we get an idea as to what he's talking about here. Let's move on to the second stanza. Oh, stay, 3 lives in 1 flea spare. Oh, stay. Now, stay can mean many things in this language, but it's in 17th century. But stay normally means hold, wait. All right? 3 lives in 1 flea spare. Right? Spare its life. There's 3 lives in that flea. Yours, mine, and the flea. Well, not really, okay? But their blood is there, isn't it? And if blood represents life, you can see where he's going with this. where we almost, yea, more than married are. Well, he's saying that our blood is together. This makes us more than married because our blood has mingled. Right? Now, you get married and before you've gone to bed with each other and had sex, your blood hasn't mingled yet. So he's saying we're more than married. Our blood has mingled. Look, it's in this flea. This flea is you and I. And this our marriage bed. Now, is he actually pointing to a marriage bed in the room there and going, and this our marriage bed? And it's for us to have sex on. Or is he saying this flea represents our marriage bed where we have effectively had sex? And it's our marriage temple. And though our parents, it says here, though parents grudge this, so clearly their parents are against their getting together, and we are met and cloistered, in other words, imprisoned in these living walls of jet being jet black, the jet black of the stomach of the flea. We're imprisoned in the stomach of this flea. Our blood is mingled together. Or you might say they're clearly imprisoned somehow in the walls in which they're staying. We're not sure there, but it could be ultimately it's the walls of the stomach lining of the flea. Then we sort of notice the repetition of these three lines at the end here, and it's me, be, three, as if he's making a very clear argument. It's all rhyming, so why don't you agree with me? Look, the whole structure of this poem, it's regular tetrameter. We have these lines at the end, though use make you apt to kill, though use make you apt to kill, though use make you apt to kill me. It's difficult, the meter on this one. You have to say it several times, I think. Though use make you apt to kill me, though use make you apt to kill me, though use make you apt to kill me. That's four again, it's tetrameter. Sorry, it takes a few times to clap that and get the rhythm. Though use make you apt to kill me, let not to that self-murder added be. So he tries to make it very clear in a regular rhyme and a regular rhythm that this argument cannot be disputed. And although you're ready to kill me by killing this flea, if the flea represents my blood and therefore me, you're going to kill me. And self-murder you're going to add to that because you're going to kill yourself if the blood represents you, and sacrilege because you're going to kill three. You're going to kill the flea, you're going to kill me, and you're going to kill myself and yourself. Okay? So we then move on to the final stanza. And he says, cruel and sudden. So what do we think's happened? Okay, she's just squashed the flea, I think. Okay, cruel and sudden. Hast thou since purpled thy nail in blood of innocence? And how could, wherein, how could this flea guilty be? Except in that drop which it sucked from thee. So it's not guilty apart from having stolen your blood. So why'd you kill it? And yet you triumph about this. You seem happy and say that you find not thyself or me any weaker. So with all this worry about killing this flea, well, admittedly it was the narrator that said it was going to be, killing, it was going to be murder. But there's been no ill effects. So you've been worrying about nothing. Well, it was him that was trying to make her worried about it. So in the final line, 'tis true then. He says, right, so you killed the flea, but you're not in any way weaker. Right, okay, well, I'll bend the argument around this way. 'Tis true then. Learn how false fears be. You see, there's nothing to be worried about. Just so much honour is lost. Just so much honour when thou yields to me. So you weren't worried, you had no problem killing the flea, and if you jump into bed with me, then all you're going to lose is honour. And if you're worried about losing honour, well, look how you felt about killing the flea. It didn't do anything to you, so what's there to worry about in jumping into bed? We'll waste, only honour will waste, as this flea's death took life from thee. Well, it didn't take any life from you, did it? And honour, well, that doesn't hurt. So why not jump into bed with me right now, is what he's saying. He's trying to persuade her to jump into bed. Okay? Notice throughout this lexis of death, as we notice certainly in the second stanza, where we see self-murder, killing. We also mentioned sins, so this biblical reference, sacrilege, Okay, notice how he's manipulating language to make himself sound learned, calling on biblical references, calling on the lexis of death, just to frighten her. Okay, so really it's just a persuasive attempt at getting someone into bed.